How the hell are we going to do this podcast for the rest of the election? We're supposed to be having
Yeah.
fun. This is going to
Yes.
be a disaster, and we're just going to be like broadcasting from under the sheets. And it's just like, oh dear God, it's like I was terrified.
My name is Brittlestar, not really.
And I'm Sandy Garossino, really.
And this is Canada Watching U.S. News. Well, we're back at it. Canada Watching U.S. News has returned because nothing was really happening, was it, Sandy, in America?
It's been a slow summer. It's just been like lazing along the lazy river. And here we are, it's August.
I think there was at one point, I think I said to you, I can't remember, but that there's almost too much. There's almost too much to cover. And I mean, we were thinking about just before we started recording, just about what's happened since the last episode. Well, let's just take if we can, let's just take a little listen to see where our heads were at the last episode of Canada Watching U.S. News.
There is not
no
going
hope.
to be
All right,
hope.
that's great. Again,
There's
that's
only
right.
there's only hiding under the bed until
Yeah.
after the election when we find out what the hell this has happened here.
Well, I'm going to remind you, Sandy, we wanted to make this show fun.
Yes, I'm hiding.
We're not
I'm
doing a
gonna
good
hide
job
under
so
the bed.
far.
I'm hiding under the bed.
So we were not at our most optimistic. And then
I was dying. I was dying.
You were dying. Yeah, I know. Well, I think a lot of people were, because it was like we were watching stuff that was happening stateside and going, "Oh, this is like a lost cause." I think we did the emergency podcast for the debate, which was a horror show. I mean, I can't even properly think back to it without getting PTSD.
Yeah.
And then of course, just in general, it seemed like there was no stopping Trump whatsoever. And then, of course, there was the assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Then Joe Biden said he wasn't going to run for reelection. He was stepping aside. And then Kamala Harris was essentially, chosen as the new leader of the Democrats. And things might have changed slightly since then.
Just a tiny bit. I have a question for you. Do you
Yeah.
think this controversy over did Trump's ear get hit or not, does this matter at all? Like, apart from the fact that everybody's already forgotten the assassination and it's not there. I'm kind of like irritated with what is this fuss about? Was his ear hit or not? The person behind him was shot to death.
I know.
Like, come on.
Well,
It's not like this was a BB gun.
No, exactly. It was the real deal for sure. I think it doesn't matter right now. I think it will matter later, post election. Hopefully the election goes well and Kamala gets elected. I think it'll be suddenly people will turn their attention back to that and go, wait a minute, what actually happened then? And I hate sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but there's so many unanswered questions. There's so many things that just don't add up. And I saw footage yesterday of the security service team when they were all huddled around him on that stage. And then the woman at the front motions to him like this for a camera. And then he looks up and it's like, what's happening? What's happening?
You know what? Like almost always, like conspiracy theories, the oxygen of conspiracy theories is incompetence. Like somebody screws up and then
Sure.
everybody thinks there's been a giant conspiracy. I think there was a signal that the shooter had been killed, that the security team got. I just think this thing was such madness. Someone with an assault rifle attempted to shoot a former president of the United States in the middle of a speech in a public place. Like I'm not even gonna go there. Maybe there'll be something later, but don't you think there's going to be if Trump is not reelected and these prosecutions continue, don't you think there's going to be way more interesting things to be worried about?
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're right, but it is weird.
I think it's
It's weird.
weird, and I think what was the additional thing that was weird about it was the stinging indictment of the public, the general masses, in the fact that it became a non-story so quickly that that fella who actually got killed, and this, as you said, an assassination attempt on a former president, pretty big deal,
Yeah.
and within a week, it was old news. It was crazy.
It's so funny, people are gonna get so bored with me repeating this mantra, but when my son called me from California the morning after this happened to say, "What do I think is gonna happen?" Because everybody's going, "Okay, the election's over. This is a done deal. Trump's gonna be
Yeah.
reelected. This is the
Uh-huh.
defining moment. This is the history turns on this moment." And
Yeah.
I said to him in um, a, a moment of unconscionable confidence, which seemed like such a crazy thing to say. And I said, you have to always remember that the most powerful force in American politics is amnesia. This story is going to be over by September. And that was the morning after. And like now, I mean, it was over in a week.
I
It
know.
was unbelievable.
It was craziness. And of course, then exactly at that point, though, I remember at the time everyone thought to themselves, okay, well, and I think certainly I did. I was like, in our discussions in our family, we were like, well, that's it. Trump's won. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no way you can't. That's a total hero moment. The pictures were phenomenal. They
Yeah.
were they were stoic. They were heroic looking. They were like crossing the Delaware esque,
Yeah.
and they were like, all kinds of America. They're like,
Mhm.
I wanted to get a T-shirt. Actually, I didn't want to get a T-shirt. I didn't want. That's a lie. That's a total. I would never wear that T-shirt. But I mean, that idea where it was like such Americana and such
Yeah.
American myth building, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
evident. And so there's no way. There's absolutely no way he can lose now.
Mhm.
And then,
And then,
and then there's a whole bunch of pushback against Joe Biden after the debate. uh, for him to step down, which initially was met with, hey, 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 don't be so mean to Joe. My view of it at the time, and I think we talked about it during the emergency podcast, was after the debate, was that whoever's letting him do this is cruel. Like if they should either say to him, you shouldn't do this, or like this is, he's a fine man. As you said, he's one of the best presidents they've ever had. And he's, as we both agreed, he just was not in a position or in a
no.
place to do anything good for the Democrats. And
And yeah.
no, and I was going to say that, you and I at the time both were discussing, well, who takes his place if he steps down? And we listed all these people. And I think we both agreed at the time, it was kind of like, well, I think Kamala seems like a natural choice. I don't know how that works. I don't know if the American public is ready for that. And I was worried that they were going to pick Kamala because I was like, this might not go well. And I think the takeaway here is that you and I are probably wrong a lot.
I think we're wrong a lot. I mean, but this was. Have we ever seen anything like this? The transformation of the ugly duckling into the beautiful swan.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's really one of the most extraordinary things. I thought back then that Kamala was unelectable. I was hopeful that there would be an open convention and that there would be a full competition. And I didn't think that Harris would survive a competition like that in the face of people like Gavin Newsom and Whitmer, all of that. All of those people fell to the side. It was like the Mary Poppins moment, which I'm giving away a generational thing. So nobody listening to this probably will know. Mary Poppins comes to arrive at the door to apply for a job, and all the other nannies, applicants fall away, and there's only her. And so it was very much, it was a moment like that. But something else happened. It wasn't just that all these other um, contenders fell away. And I think it's one of the most interesting moments in culture and perception and media and how we absorb things. Because in 48 hours, I went from, well, Kamala Harris is unelectable, it won't be her, to, she's the second Obama. This is amazing. And like, what was that? What was that, Stuart? You know a bit about media. What the hell happened?
You know what I think it was? I thought a little bit about this, and I think I know what it was because one of the benefits of being in Canada and watching things like this unfold in the States is it feels like you're sat back a little bit. You're not in the fray. We're
Yeah,
kind of outside a little
at
bit.
a distance.
We're a little bit of a distance. We get more of objective, more of a full field view of what's happening. And I think the only way I could sort of understand it was that once the decision was made, okay, they're going to push hard for Kamala. She's going to be the candidate. I think it made it okay for everybody else to get on board. I think
Yeah,
everybody was like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
yeah.
And then as soon as that domino effect started to happen of the domino effect of support, then I think people were like, okay, we're in, let's do this. Let's do this. And I think it's a carryover from a couple of things. One, it's that idea of the excitement people had when Hillary was running and they're like, this is going to be the first woman president.
Mhm,
As well as that, there's also the idea that we screwed it up last time.
mhm,
So this
mhm,
is our do-over. We get another
mhm,
shot here. So let's
mhm,
take a better
mhm,
swing.
mhm.
And there's like an overwhelming sense of optimism, which is crazy. The one thing you did, and well, you pegged lots of things right, actually. But one of the more prominent things that related to this was the fact that you said you wanted to see a big Democratic convention, a big DNC sort of type of thing happening where they choose a new candidate. Of course, that didn't need to happen. However, the DNC is happening currently, and it is glitzy primetime
Off the
TV.
charts amazing. It's phenomenal television. Just that roll call last night. I don't know how many people saw that. People probably on social media at least will see like the Lil Jon clip
Little John, yeah.
from Georgia where this rapper comes out and it's like it just blew the doors off
Yeah.
that place and suddenly like it's just like this is rock star television and yeah it's been spectacular, not to mention the amazing speeches of the Obamas last night.
Hmm.
And I thought Biden's speech was like knock 'em dead. I was kind of surprised that a lot of the media response to that seemed to be a little bit muted because I think it was one of his great speeches. And he did a fantastic job. And there was some criticism that, oh, he should have been, saying more about like introducing Kamala. It's like, hell no, he's the sitting president of the United
Yeah.
States and he had a defining moment in history. And God damn it, he should be able to stand up and say, and this is what we did, and this is what we're up against, and this is why it matters, and this is why it matters to me. And I'm the fucking president of the United States,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say what I want to say.
I can see that, but I can also see the idea that they wanted it's kind of like the assassination attempt. There's so much focus in the election in the US right now. It's
Yeah.
like we'll do that hero worship later. We'll do all the investigation later. We'll do all that stuff. Don't worry about it. That's not on the front burner. Let's put that on the back burner.
Mhm.
Let's just go ahead with focusing on Kamala and Tim Walz and just that's we're full steam ahead. That's what we're going to do. Um it- it's it's been I love the fact that Little John did the roll call. 'Cause of course, Little John was a, contestant, on Celebrity Apprentice as well.
Oh, was he really? I
Yeah, yeah,
did
yeah.
not know
Yeah,
this.
and I
Did
we
he
we
get
ca
fired,
he got fired.
Stuart?
He did get
Trump
fired.
fired him?
Yeah, exactly. It didn't seem to hurt him at all career-wise.
No.
Um, and I'm a fan, and I remember watching because Shannon and I used to watch Celebrity Apprentice. As I've said
Good
numerous
for
times,
you.
Trump's, best use is benign entertainment. That's it. But he's like a
Mhm.
cartoon character. He's a Daddy Warbucks. He is a boss hog. He is all those types of characters. Scrooge McDuck. He's like all these people rolled into one. And if you keep him benign, you keep him sort of harmless, then he is, he's that's his best use on the planet, I think. Um, so we would watch it, and you would sort of come away with this idea of like, obviously entertaining, but no, I don't want him running the country. But we watched Little John's that season with Little John, and he
Uh-huh.
came across as very smart, very intelligent, and
Lil Jon did.
Little John did, and came away with like we came away both Shannon and I thinking like he's pretty cool, he's pretty great, and I think he proved it last night. There you go.
There
I
you
think
go.
so.
Well, it was I don't know who is stage managing this whole thing, whether it's Live Nation or
Mhm.
what they're doing, but the camera work, the fact of Harris and Walls appearing in Milwaukee, which was the site of the RNC convention earlier this summer, and just taking it to them. I mean, they are landing punch after punch. Not to mention Barack Obama's
Oh
meme
God.
appearance, like his joke about crowd sizes,
With
which
his
of
hand
course
movements. Yeah.
with his hands coming close together, and it's like the beauty of something like, I mean, first of all, it was hilarious in the moment. Everybody got it instantly, but it also makes it like Trump can't stop himself from doing this thing. So from now on, whenever he does this, it's going to be reminding, it's going to remind everybody of what Obama had to say about that hand gesture. So anyway, there's so much actual trolling of Trump and the things that he really cares about
Well, that was
in
interesting. Yeah,
the
exactly.
Obama speeches.
The one of the comments I'd read online about Michelle Obama's speech was that it was a different turn from her usual sort of, when they go low, we go high. It
Yeah,
was kind of like, let's fight. Let's fight. Let's
yeah,
do this. And I think if
yeah.
this is the time for that, I think this is absolutely the time. They can't mess around. They can't play pious. They have to really, land a lot of punches. I've often said to like Trump after he came to power, um, he's like I'm not a big video game player, but at the end of the old video games, you'd get to the big bad guy, and the big bad
Hmm.
guy wouldn't go down with one shot. You have to like numerous attacks would have to take him down.
Yeah,
It's the only way you could take him down
yeah,
is with numerous attacks. I feel
yeah.
the very same thing is for Trump as well. It's like one thing's not going to take that guy down. It's going to take
Hmm.
a whole bunch of nonstop barrage of you know speeches and appearances and sound bites and all that kind of stuff that's going to do the damage. And you can see that that seems to be part of their strategy for the Democrats, which I'm so thankful for. Because I mean, as we said of that clip earlier of us, I was bummed. I was
I
so
was, I
down.
was, Stuart, I was wondering, how the hell are we going to do this podcast for the rest of the election? We're supposed to be having
Yeah,
fun. This
yeah,
is going to be a disaster, and we're just going to be like broadcasting from under the sheets. And it's just like, oh dear God, it's like I was terrified. I was I was really worried. And it's like, we're going to laugh now. We're going to have a lot of laughs. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I mean, Megan McCain was tweeting last night about how the RNC have totally hooped themselves. That this DNC, this convention, this is looking like an absolute party celebration. And what are the Republicans selling? Disaster and hatred and
yeah,
anger and bitterness, which they've been dining out on for years, and it's been there. How do they pivot from that? How do they pivot from we're the party of hatred and meanness and name calling to we're the party, which is what the Democrats are doing. And it's amazing to watch them find the voice. And I put an awful lot of this on Tim Walz.
yeah,
And, people talk about how this is the gender election and et cetera, and men versus women. But actually, in a very peculiar way, I think this has suddenly become an election about visions of manhood.
yeah,
And we've been living with kind of the Hummer mentality. Guys have to be taking supplements, and they have to be beefing up, and
yeah,
they have to be out there doing all this stuff and be tough guys and mean guys and throwing punches all the time. And finally, we've got a picture of just like a normal guy, like a
yeah.
good guy. This is what do women want? Women want good guys. They want guys like you, Stuart, and they want guys like
That's
Tim
right.
Walz.
Like me.
And
That's right, Sandy.
they want football coaches who are good guys, and teachers and vice principals who are good people and who carry you along and pick you up when you're down and put you on your way, and who are out there helping, like as Obama said last night, helping their neighbors and being, and shoveling sidewalks. You want that guy, not this Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt off and I'm going to
Yeah.
body slam Kamala Harris. I mean, are we kidding? Like, what is this? And finally, it's a strange thing, but I feel like that's what this election is kind of rapidly turning into.
That's interesting. I think you might be right. I think there's an element to what's happening, and it might be a huge element that being and this I don't know how to properly articulate this or say this, so it might be clumsy, but the idea that it's okay to have a woman and a woman of color president. I'm secure enough in my manhood that that doesn't affect me. That
Yeah,
doesn't, it doesn't have any negative implications for me at all.
yeah.
Um, and I think also with Tim Walz, it's sort of showing you that it's like just how easy it is to be a decent guy. I mean,
Just just
just
be a
don't be a jerk.
good guy.
Yeah.
I think he's that was that, and of course we didn't when we were listing all the things that happened in the summer. We didn't list the selection of Tim Walz as the running mate,
Yeah.
and this may be one of the most historically stroke of genius appointments for exactly that reason. One of the things that's interesting to me about th- how this race is shaping up is that Kamala Harris is not really playing the woman card in the way that Hillary did. This is we all know it. We all know that this would be a historic election, and she's not playing the black card or the woman
Yeah.
of color. She's
Sure.
not like she's I'm probably phrasing that clumsily. She's not relying too much on that. She's being an incredibly magnetic figure. She's got a brilliant, gorgeous smile. She exudes warmth, confidence, strength, and just all the things you want and a president to project onto the world scene, and not to mention youth. And you don't need to think about, oh, well, she's a woman. We just want the best president. She is clearly the best candidate. And and you don't need to weigh on that. Now you go and you use Tim Walz to kind of eat, chip away at the male reluctance to vote
Yeah.
Democrat, which has been there.
He's like a gender sorbet.
Yeah,
He just done enough in there to neutralize it enough for people, for some voters, I'm sure, to be like, well, he's a just regular guy. I guess it's
yeah,
okay. I guess it's
yeah.
fine. Yeah, and I think it's what's interesting about Kamala is that I'm, you know, she's evidently the perfect choice and evidently the best choice for America without
Yeah.
question. And I think that she will be generally good for America. Will she be generally good for Canada? I don't know. I think she'll be all right. But that's something that's, she's, I'm not, I'm not sort of, overly enamored with Kamala in the sense I'm not a sort of a fanboy of Kamala
Hmm.
necessarily.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think, yeah, she's smart. She's thoughtful. She's going to do a great job. She's going to be fantastic.
Hmm.
She's going to be great.
Hmm.
Um, what interests me is a couple of things about Kamala and I think we've touched on this briefly before, is that what kind of effect is it going to have now that they've got this big push for hope and progress in the U.S. as opposed to doom and despair? Is that going to have up here in Canada? Is it going to? I mean, I keep thinking of that picture of Kamala talking
Mm.
to Trudeau, wherever they were at some summit thing, and I just think they just look like buddies. There's like
Hmm.
they're well matched intelligence wise. They can
Yeah.
obviously they share jokes. They can talk, and it's like that can't be a bad thing for Canada.
Hmm.
I don't think.
No, I don't think so. I don't know how it'll be interesting to see whether, because I do feel, and I may be being completely optimistic here. I'm always being told by my family that I'm too much of a Pollyanna on this stuff, but I do feel a, like the Trump bell is breaking
Yeah.
and the wind is coming out of his sails, and it's not so much that he's being exposed as is that the Trump cult, the power of it is just kind of seems to be falling away. How much how much did that affect the political climate in Canada? It's hard to say, but I really do feel that Pierre Poilievre really relies on and leans on a lot of those tropes that are
Mhm.
part of the MAGA culture. He doesn't explicitly, support Donald Trump and MAGA culture, but he never, for 1 second ever, disabuse, like, will uh, will resile from that, will retreat from any of that.
Mhm.
Nobody who ever expresses any of those views will never say, "Well, that's too far. That's going too far. We're not like that in this country, and we're not like that in this country."
Yeah.
So I think he's happy to take any of the updraft from the Trump kind of climate, and there's an awful lot of willingness to do a lot of those use a lot of those techniques, attacking the media, attacking the press, um, not being very truthful or forthcoming or good faith in his attacks. Not to say that all politicians are always of good faith, but I think that there's a pretty clear record there now that he's quite prepared to he's quite prepared to punch below the belt, and
Mhm.
in really unfair ways, and misleading ways. Uh, will Canadians kind of shift their perception? That's a very interesting question, because the one thing that Canada doesn't have that the United States does have is we don't have a new candidate yet for the Liberals.
Yeah.
People, I think a huge amount of Poilievre's support is just people who are sick and tired of
Sure.
the Trudeau years,
Yeah.
and they want change. And
Yeah.
if they had change within the Liberal Party, well, maybe they would be prepared to consider it. But I don't see Trudeau being able to be a beneficiary of the era's um, momentum.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also disagree in a sense that I think that he might be poised to be like the best recipient for that
Mm,
particular, because I think that Kamala is essentially a star, and certainly in the uh, Canadian sphere of celebrity, she's a megastar, obviously.
mhm,
And I think that Trudeau is also a star as well. I think
mhm,
there's an element of celebrity for both of them that
mm,
I think, oh, they kind of get each other. If you threw like maybe Sean Fraser, maybe Anita Anand, maybe somebody
yeah,
else, maybe they'd be great leaders. I'm not sure they have the same like you. I think that Kamala has a massive ego, and I think that Trudeau has a massive ego. And as much as I like Trudeau, and I feel happy saying that because it's I think there's I mean I have a massive ego as well. But I think that you need that kind of that celebrity head on your shoulders to kind of be able to feel like go to the table, especially for Canada and the US, to go to the table and consider yourself an equal with an entity that is 10 times the size of you
yeah,
and 10
yeah.
times the strength and 10 times the power, 10 times the economy,
Mm,
10 times the revenue
mm.
and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure who it would be. Like I don't think that Canada has a currently, I don't think we currently have a wow, this is going to be a knock 'em dead, you know, amazing candidate that we can throw up instead. At least not right now. But then again, we didn't think Kamala was either.
We
So
I've been sitting here politely going, let's rewind this tape to
don't
Kamala
play the
Harris
tape.
is unelectable. She'll never be able to do this. I don't, I don't know. I don't know.
It's hard to tell. One of the things that's interesting about the DNC stuff that's happening from a perspective of a Canadian is just how much, as you said, it's great television, and I cannot fathom that happening in Canada. I cannot put it in my head, that it would be uh, y- y- just the same kind of spectacle at all.
We don't have the money.
Is
Like,
that
look
all
how much
stopping us?
Kamala Harris, the Harris campaign raised $500 million in the last month. And a huge amount of that is going into
This show,
these incredible
right?
production values. I mean, you don't think Hollywood is behind that production thing?
Yeah, true.
I'm tossing out Live Nation because they do all the best they own the live event world.
Yeah,
They know how to produce on this scale. The talent is there. We don't have the talent, and we don't have the money. I mean, we're we I just don't I don't see it. And we don't have the same kind of I don't know, we just don't have the same kind of excitement. You look into the crowd, you don't see a Bill Clinton, a Hillary Clinton, a Joe
Yeah.
Biden, a Barack Obama, a Michelle Obama. It's just like, just to say nothing of all the other figures. I mean, we're looking at the biggest stars of the last century right
Well,
now on the
I think that's a
stage.
very American quality as well, right? That idea that you essentially they believe their own hype, they buy into their own mythology,
Yeah.
they do all that
They
stuff, and
don't doubt
they
themselves.
don't doubt themselves. Whereas Canadians are much more likely to be like, I don't know if anyone's going to care. And I mean, because it's just it'd be if we had the money, I feel we could maybe do something similar, but I'm not sure that we have the right.
We have the tall poppy syndrome too. Everybody has to be cut down to
Yeah.
size. And every time a Canadian public official, like look at what's going on in New York right now. Apparently, we're
Yes.
buying a residence for the consul general,
Hmm.
Canadian consul in New York City, and it's a national disgrace that they're paying
Yeah.
$9 million for
Yeah.
a New York apartment. I not to quote Twitter as any kind of authority, but I think I saw somebody say, "Yeah, they just sold one for 13 million and
That's
are
right.
buying one for 9 million." So, like, what the heck is all of this? But really, truly, we want to be a world power, so called. We
Yeah.
want to be on the international, the global stage.
Yeah.
The UN is in New York. The New York consul is going to be entertaining world leaders at
Yeah.
the residence of the consul. All of this is going to be happening in New York City, the capital city of the entire world, and we're supposed to buy a little fifth floor walk up for our and like what are people thinking? But we run into this every single time. 24 Sussex has sat full of cobwebs for how many years now? Nothing is happening there because nobody can bear the controversy of renovating or building a suitable new residence that would be
Yeah.
suitable for hosting international
Yeah.
gatherings at the residence of the prime minister. This is a kind of foolishness that is just embarrassing. I mean, it's that's all I can say. It's embarrassing. People want us to project all this and to be these kind of figures on the world stage, but we're supposed to do our interior decorating with construction paper and table scraps.
I think you're right. I think that's what's funny about it is that the people who are complaining about things like the consulate in New York is are the same people that are being like, "Yo, why can we be more like America?" And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to compete anyway. With
Yeah.
that's the idea, as you said, we're entertaining
Costs
world
money.
leaders, and it costs money. You got to impress people. Exactly, it's business. Here's a separate question for you on the opposite side of that magic dust blowing north from Kamala. Um, what do we think it's going to have potentially a negative effect on Canadian politics? Meaning, do you think the fact that if America has their first woman president, their first woman of color president, is that going to make things not good? Is that going to somehow panic a voter, that little sliver of voters that we need to get the good guys in, whoever the good guys happen to be? Is that going to affect them? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm not so flesh that out a little bit, Stuart, because
So
I'm not
meaning
I'm
like,
not feeling that one so
okay, so what
much.
I'm saying, in its most blunt terms, is having a woman president or a woman of color president going to make the more alt right and heavily right leaning crew think, well, look what happened down there. It all went to hell. We better not let that happen to us. Let's not do that. So we got to make sure we're going as far right as possible. We have to maintain family values. We have to do both this and that. And look at Kamala's and Doug Emhoff's daughter. Like she's got tattoos. Oh my God. And all this kind of nonsense.
Whose kids don't have tattoos in this country?
Well, mine, as far as I know, unless I
Oh,
haven't seen
you know
I haven't
what?
seen Owen's
You know
back in a
what?
long time. He probably has
You
a
know
huge
what?
dolphin. It wouldn't be a dolphin. It'd be an eagle, probably a fierce eagle, probably. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't think either of my kids have tattoos, actually. as far
Well,
as I know.
we'll be finding out. We are going to
Well,
be
I know we'll
finding
find
out.
it afterwards. Exactly.
They
Exactly.
all have friends who have tattoos.
Oh, absolutely. 1,000%. And yeah, the only reason I think I don't have a tattoo is because my dad had two tattoos, one on each forearm. One was the name of his fiance, and then they broke up. And then he got together with my mom, and he said to my mom said to him, "I want you to black out her name on this side and get the identical tattoo in the other arm with my name," which he did. Ugh.
Well
And he said
done.
to me, he took me aside when I was very young and repeatedly and said, "If you ever get tattoos, I'll kill you. Don't do it." I was like, okay,
Don't get tattoos.
not gonna do
Well,
it.
I can't wait for tattoos to like all of these people are going to get old. They're going to
Oh.
be in nursing homes with saggy baggy tattoos that they have to pull out and stretch out so that people can see what they were one
Yeah,
time. And the
exactly.
day will come when tattoos are not cool anymore. I say this as a former hippie, so I know what I'm speaking about here. Time happens to us all, so I can't wait for the era when tattoos, like having no tattoos, is like the coolest new thing. But
I just don't have the
I've been waiting for a
self-confidence.
long time for things to get more calm.
Yeah. I just don't have the self-confidence for that at all. I can't even choose a shirt to wear. I'm like, I hate this shirt. Now I can't wear this shirt anymore. This shirt's okay. Just in case the shirt is listening to this playback. Uh, yeah, so that was my question. Do you think, like, will it have a negative impact? Will it have a negative impact of is that even a possibility, or will it is it unfeasible for the Canadian electorate to say, "Ooh, I don't want those kind of progressive values here"? I think it's going to be the opposite, but I'm just curious if you what your thoughts are.
Well, I think a lot depends on how the campaign rolls out because and I think there's a huge amount of resonance. I think it's really resonating with the public, the idea that actually the ideas of the alt right, the hard right, and in fact a lot of the racist ideas and the looking at rolling back Roe v. Wade. I mean, the extremists, the radicals, have been on the right in the United States for a long time. Now the
Mhm.
radicals are sitting on the U.S. Supreme Court, and that's not a pretty picture. And I
No.
have a lot of confidence that people get tired of Justin Trudeau. They get tired of always having same. Uh, but I don't think that Canadians really want to live in a MAGA world. I think that Canadians in general, because this will be a continuation of the Biden presidency in a lot of ways, in a lot of policy ways.
Mhm.
It's not like this is some radical new party that the Democrats weren't before. I think Canadians were pretty comfortable with the Biden administration.
Yeah.
And I think that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who is from uh, a northern Midwest state, is going to have a very strong relationship with Canada. And I just think that I think the synchronicity is going to be very natural, and I think it's just going to be a continuation. I don't think there's actually much appetite in Canada for the character of a lot of the MAGA world. I was surprised to see a poll not too long ago. I can't remember if it was Abacus or who the pollster was, that something like 51% of conservatives now support Donald Trump, but most Canadians do not. And I think so. It's an interesting interplay for the conservatives.
It was reminding me of a poll that I saw in Abacus data, fantastic graph that they put out about, because I always get concerned. One of the things that there's a common slogan for the conservatives here in Canada is defund the CBC.
Right.
They want to get rid of the CBC, and I think to myself, I mean, I've worked with the CBC before. I've done video stuff for the CBC. I have pitched stuff to the CBC. They have come back with ungodly low budgets for what I'd like to do, and I have to
Yeah.
not work with them. They are not, apart from the top echelons of the CBC, they're not squandering taxpayer money. Top echelons, we
The
need to do.
bonuses are like pretty nice, pretty healthy.
Yeah, exactly. We need to do something about that. but everybody else is not squandering money. They're not. It's not like the
No.
Kids in the Hall sketch of screw your taxpayer.
Yeah.
But anyway, this poll put defund the CBC at around 31% of
Hmm.
Canadians saying they agree with that,
Hmm.
which is the exact same percentage of Canadians who want to bring back the death penalty.
Maybe they want to bring back the death penalty for the
I'm
people who
not.
are getting bonuses
I'm
at the
not gonna say.
CBC.
I'm not gonna say. It's not for me to say.
This is a joke, everybody.
That's
I'm
right.
joking. I'm
Exactly.
not.
That's
I'm not. I'm
exactly.
not advocating this.
No, exactly. But yeah, my hope is that the election goes well for the Democrats in the U.S. And Kamala gets in and Tim gets in, and we kind of re-enter a little bit of that stage of like, okay, there's lots of things that are wrong. There's lots of things that need to be fixed. Let's just fix them instead of burning the place to the ground and rolling the dice with some other you know Gonzo.
Yeah. Yeah.
No offense to Gonzo from the Muppets. He's one of my favorites. But yeah, so there you go. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Because we're going to be doing this show right through up to the election at least. And what do you think what should we be watching for?
I'm watching to see. I'm very curious about how Trump is going to deal with this phenomenon of Kamala Harris because I don't think they were not ready for this, and I'm kind of surprised because
Which is
I would have
shocking.
thought that I would have thought that they'd be at least ready for Biden to step away, and
Yeah.
they don't seem to have been ready for that. But then I think the assumption that they possibly had been making, which we all had been making, was that Kamala Harris is not electable
Yeah.
and they didn't have to worry about her. And suddenly, not only does she look like a star, it's party time at the they're awash in money, they're awash in fabulous feeling, very, very high popular emotion. They're going right at them over this whole masculinity thing and presenting a really human face, like what we all want, what we know our dads were like, what like
Hmm.
everybody knows this good picture of masculinity, all the things that they were kind of that the Republicans and that Donald Trump in particular thought that he owned, because actually that we all know that the Republican Party really now is the Trump party. That's what it's about. It's
Sure.
about promoting Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
It's about promoting his self-interest, and it's about what Donald Trump wants. And Donald Trump is not a very highly balanced person. He's
That's very
and
kind.
he's I think he's going to lose it. And people keep thinking, they keep talking, all the talking heads say, he's going to pivot. He's going to be a more, remember after the assassination, he's going to tone things down and we're going to have, how many goddamn years have we been listening to, Donald Trump is going to, now he's going to turn presidential. Now he's going to be, I don't know why they do this because we all know, no, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not going to do any of those things. He's going to revert to his worst instincts. And I think finally, his worst instincts, he's going to really start to be afraid. And not just afraid that he's going to be a loser, because he is, I think, I'm going to touch wood here. I
Yeah.
think that the tide has turned on him. He's going to lose, but then he's going to be up against all of these uh, all this litigation and these criminal prosecutions, and he's not going to have a lot of safe harbor. And I never used to think that Donald Trump was going to be in danger of serving prison time, but I think that might actually come to pass. We might see that materialize, and I think that his fear is we're going to start to see Donald Trump afraid. And the more that we see him afraid, the harder the Democrats are going to punch him. And I think I'm looking for a real shift in the fundamental dynamic which has governed the Republicans and the Democrats since the Obama years, because the Democrats have been on the defensive and they have been having to defend wokeism and having to defend DEI and having to defend inclusiveness and having to defend all of that stuff. And now they've just kind of they've shifted the narrative. It isn't just a vibe shift of everybody feels good.
Yeah.
They're on their front feet and they're punching.
Hmm.
And they're going to keep on punching. And we're going to see the Republicans on the defensive for the first time in a very long time. And that's going to be a very telling moment.
Well, I like your optimism. Let's see what happens. You and I, we can cry, we can laugh together. It'll be great. It'll be a journey. We'll see what happens.
We will see. We will see.
Exactly. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us for this episode of Canada Watching US News. Of course, you can find us at CanadaWatchingUSNews.com, where you can subscribe with your email address and you'll get an email notification for each new episode. You can also find us on all your favorite podcasting platforms as well. Again, I'm Brittlestar, and this is Sandy Garossino, and we're just doing our best to guess what's going to happen. And that's all we can do.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you later.
Yes.